Hi, boys and girls. We are going to start a new chapter in kindergarten. And this is something to challenge you, to push you, and to get you ready for first grade. And that is actually reading chapter books. Okay, chapter books is very, very good for you. And I'm going to tell you why. They help you build your imagination. Because as you can see in this chapter book, there's not a lot of pictures, right? So your imagination is going to have to work a little harder. You're going to have to remember we always make a movie in our heads when we're reading a book. Well, usually pictures in picture books help guide us. Well, in chapter books, we don't really have that guidance. It's our mind that is really going to push that story or paint that picture. So chapter books really help you with imagination. They help you build patience. And why I say that is you have to have endurance to read a chapter book. You have to sit and just listen. It's a lot of listening. And thirdly, they can help you build a love for reading if you continue with a series. Many books, just like this book, has a series. Okay, so the book we're going to be reading, the chapter book we're going to be reading is Ramona the Pest. The author is Beverly Cleary. She's a very famous author. She's made many really good chapter books. Your parents probably know who she is. Collection in here we have the collection of Ramona books. So if Chloe likes one book, she can continue with the others. It's okay if you don't have these at home. You could actually check them out from the library. Public libraries are already open, and as long as you go with a mask, you could check out a book. You could put it on hold and check it out. Okay, so we're going to start with Ramona the Pest. So let's identify some characteristics of chapter books. Close the door, please, Chloe. Thank you. One thing that chapter books have are chapters, right? That's why they're called chapter books, because there are chapters within the story. They're a lot longer than picture books, right? And there are not a lot of pictures. We're going to make those pictures in our head. This is a picture book. On each page, you're going to find pictures to help guide you. While in chapter books, it doesn't have that. This chapter book actually has some images in it, but not many. Some to help you create that story. Okay, so today we're going to start with chapter 1. And the reason I picked Ramona the Pest is because Ramona is starting kindergarten in this book. So I thought this is a book that we all could relate to, right? Since you guys are in kindergarten and you're actually almost done with kindergarten. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 1. As I read this book, this is what I want you to do. I don't want you playing with toys. That's going to distract us, and it's not going to help us build the movie in our heads. If possible, nothing in your hands. Make sure your focus is on the reader. You could look at me, or you could just close your eyes and make that story. Whatever helps you focus, okay? Because the more you focus, the more you're going to get into this book. This is a really, really good book, guys, if you get into it. It's really up to you guys. You need to make that story. If you do, I'm sure you'll like this book. Okay, so we're going to start with chapter 1, Ramona the Pest. Do you guys know what a pest is? If someone says you're a pest, that means annoying. So this title is Ramona the Pest. That says something about her, right? Here we go. So we're starting with chapter 1. Chapter 1 has a title. Some picture books have titles, such as this one. It's Ramona's Great Day. Here we go. I am not a pest, Ramona Quimby told her big sister Beezus. Then stop acting like a pest, said Beezus, whose real name was Beatrice. She was standing by the front window waiting for her friend, Mary Jane, to walk to school with her. I'm not acting like a pest. I'm singing and skipping, said Ramona, who had only recently learned to skip with both feet. Ramona did not think she was a pest. No matter what others said, she never thought she was a pest. The people who called her a pest were always bigger, and so they could be unfair. Ramona went on with her singing and skipping. This is a great day, a great day, she sang. And to Ramona, who was feeling grown up in a dress instead of play clothes, this was a great day, the greatest day of her whole life. No longer would she have to sit on her tricycle watching Beezus and Henry Huggins and the rest of the boys and girls in the neighborhood go off to school. Today, she was going to school too. Today, she was going to learn to read and write and do all the things that could help her catch up with Beezus. Come on, Mama, urged Ramona, pausing in her singing and skipping. We don't want to be late for school. So here's a little picture. Don't pester, Ramona, said Mrs. Quimby. I'll get you there in plenty of time. I am not pestering, protested Ramona, who never meant to pester. She was not a slowpoke grown-up. She was a girl who could not wait. Life was so interesting, she had to find out what happened next. Then Mary Jane arrived. Mrs. Quimby, would it be all right if Beezus and I take Ramona to kindergarten? She said. No, said Ramona instantly. Mary Jane was one of those girls who always wanted to pretend she was a mother and who always wanted Ramona to be the baby. Nobody was going to catch Ramona being a baby on her first day at school. Why not? Mrs. Quimby asked Ramona. You could walk to school with Beezus and Mary Jane, just like a big girl. No, I couldn't. Ramona was not fooled for an instant. Mary Jane would talk in the silly voice she used when she was being a mother and take her by the hand and help her cross the street, and everyone would think she was a baby. Please, Ramona, coaxed Beezus. It would be lots of fun to take you in and introduce you to your kindergarten teacher. No, said Ramona, and stamped her foot. Beezus and Mary Jane might have fun, but she wouldn't. Nobody but a genius grown-up was going to take her to school. If she had to, she would make a great big noisy fuss. And when Ramona made a great big noisy fuss, she usually got her own way. Great big noisy fusses were often necessary when a girl was the youngest member of the family and the youngest person on her block. All right, Ramona, said Mrs. Quimby. Don't make a great big noisy fuss. If that's the way you feel about it, you don't have to walk with the girls. I'll take you. Hurry, Mama, said Ramona happily as she watched Beezus and Mary Jane go out the door. But when Ramona finally got her mother out of the house, she was disappointed to see one of her mother's friends, Mrs. Kemper, approaching with her son Howie and her little sister Wheela Jean, who was riding in a stroller. Hurry, Mama, urged Ramona, not wanting to wait for the Kemps. Because their mothers were friends, she and Howie were expected to get along with one another. Hi there, Mrs. Kemper called out, so of course Ramona's mother had to wait. Howie stared at Ramona. He did not like having to get along with her any more than she liked having to get along with him. Ramona stared back. Howie was a solid-looking boy with curly blonde hair. Such a waste of a boy, his mother often remarked. Such a waste on a boy, his mother often remarked. The legs of his new jeans were turned up, and he was wearing a new shirt with long sleeves. He did not look the least bit excited about starting kindergarten. That was the trouble with Howie, Ramona felt. He never got excited. Straight-haired Willa Jean, who was interesting to Ramona because she was so sloppy, blew out a mouthful of wet zicky back crumbs and laughed at her cleverness. Today, my baby leaves me, remarked Mrs. Quimby with a smile as the little group proceeded down Clickitat Street towards Glenwood School. Ramona, who enjoyed being her mother's baby, did not enjoy being called her mother's baby, especially in front of Howie. They grow up quickly, observed Mrs. Kemp. Ramona could not understand why grown-ups always talked about how quickly children grew up. Ramona thought growing up was the slowest thing there was, slower than waiting for Christmas to come. She had been waiting years just to get to kindergarten, and the last half hour was the slowest part of all. When the group reached the intersection nearest Glenwood School, Ramona was pleased to see that Beezus' friend Henry Huggins was the traffic boy in charge of that particular corner. After Henry had led them across the street, Ramona ran off towards the kindergarten, which was a temporary wooden building with its own playground. Mothers and children were already entering the open door, some of the children looking frightened, and one girl was crying. "We're late," cried Ramona. "Hurry!" Howie was not a boy to be hurried. "I don't see any tricycles," he said critically. "I don't see any dirt to dig in." Ramona was scornful. "This isn't a nursery school. Tricycles and dirt are for nursery schools." Her own tricycle was hidden in the garage because it was too babyish for her now that she was going to enter school. Some big first grade boys ran past yelling, "Kindergarten babies, kindergarten babies." "We are not babies," Ramona yelled back as she led her mother into the kindergarten. Once inside, she stayed close to her. Everything was so strange, and there was so much to see. The little tables and chairs, the row of cupboards, each with a different picture on the door, the play stove, and the wooden blocks big enough to stand on. The teacher, who was new to Glenwood School, turned out to be so young and pretty. She could not have been a grown-up very long. It was rumored she had never taught school before. "Hello, Ramona. My name is Miss Binley. Binny," she said, speaking each syllable distinctly as she pinned Ramona's name to her dress. "I am so glad you have come to kindergarten." Then she took Ramona by the hand and led her to one of the little tables and chairs. "Sit here for the present," she said with a smile. A present, thought Ramona, and knew at once she was going to like Miss Binny. "Be a good girl." "Goodbye, Ramona," said Mrs. Quimby. "Be a good girl." As she watched her mother walk out of the door, Ramona decided school was going to be even better than she had hoped for. Nobody had told her she was going to get a present for the very first day. What kind of present could it be, she wondered, trying to remember if Beezus had ever been given a present by her teacher. Ramona listened carefully while Miss Binley showed Howie to a table. But all her teacher said was, "Howie, I would like you to sit here." Well, thought Ramona, not everyone is going to get a present, so Miss Binny must like me best. Ramona watched and listened as the other boys and girls arrived, but Miss Binny did not tell anyone else he was going to get a present if he sat in a certain chair. Ramona wondered if her present would be wrapped in fancy paper or tied with a ribbon like a birthday present. She hoped so. As Ramona sat waiting for her present, she watched the other children being introduced to Miss Binny by their mothers. She found two members of the morning kindergarten especially interesting. One was a boy named Davy, who was small and thin and eager. He was the only boy in the class in short pants, and Ramona liked him at once. She liked him so much she decided she would like to kiss him. The other interesting person was a big girl named Susan. Susan's hair looked like the hair on the girls in the picture of the old-fashioned stories that Beezus liked to read. It was reddish-brown and hung in curls like springs that touched her shoulders and bounced as she walked. Ramona had never seen such curls before. All the curly-haired girls she knew wore their hair short. Ramona put her hand on her own short, straight hair, which was an ordinary brown, and longed to touch that bright, springy hair. She longed to stretch one of those curls and watch it spring back. Boing, thought Ramona, making a mental noise like a spring on a television cartoon, and wishing for thick, springy, boing boing hair like Susan's. Howie interrupted Ramona's admiration of Susan's hair. How soon do you think we can get to go out and play? He asked. Maybe after Miss Binny gives me the present, Ramona answered. She said she was going to give me one. How come she's going to give you a present? Howie wanted to know. She didn't say anything about giving me a present. Maybe she likes me best, said Ramona. This news did not make Howie happy. He turned to the next boy and said, She's going to get a present. Ramona wondered how long she would have to sit there to get the present. If only Miss Binny understood how hard waiting was for her. When the last child had been welcomed and the last tearful mother had departed, Miss Binny gave a little talk about the rules of kindergarten and showed the class the door that led to the bathroom. Next, she assigned each person a little cupboard. Ramona's cupboard had a picture of a yellow duck on the door, and Howie's had a green frog. Miss Binny explained that their hooks in the cloakroom were marked with the same pictures. Then she asked the class to follow her quietly into the cloakroom to find their hooks. We don't have that in our class. Difficult, though, waiting was for her. Ramona did not budge. Miss Binny had not told her to get up and go into the cloakroom for her present. She had told her to sit for the present, and Ramona was going to sit until she got it. She would sit as if she were glued to the chair. Howie howled at Ramona as he turned from the cloakroom and said to another boy, The teacher is going to give her a present. Naturally, the boy wanted to know why. I don't know, admitted Ramona. She told me that if I sat here, I would get a present. I guess she likes me best. By the time Miss Binny returned from the cloakroom, word had spread in the classroom that Ramona was going to get a present. Next, Miss Binny taught the class the words of a puzzling song about the Donzer Lee light, which Ramona did not understand because she did not know what a donzer was. Oh, say, can you see by the Donzer Lee light, sang Miss Binny, and Ramona decided that a donzer was another word for a lamp. When Miss Binny had gone over the song several times, she asked the class to stand and sing it with her. Ramona did not budge, neither did Howie and some of the others, and Ramona knew they were hoping for a present too. Copycats, she thought. Stand up straight like good Americans, said Miss Binny, so firmly that Howie and the others reluctantly stood up. Ramona decided she would have to be a good American sitting down. Ramona, said Miss Binny, aren't you going to stand with the rest of us? Ramona thought quickly. Maybe the question was some kind of test, like a test in a fairy tale. Maybe Miss Binny was testing her to see if she could get her out of her seat. If she failed the test, she would not get the present. I can't, said Ramona. Miss Binny looked puzzled. But she did not insist that Ramona stand while she led the class through the Donzer song. Ramona sang along with the others and hoped that her present came next. But when the song ended, Miss Binny made no mention of the present. Instead, she picked up a book. Ramona decided that at last the time had come to learn to read. Miss Binney stood in front of her class and began to read aloud from Mike Mulligan and His Steamy Shovel, a book that was a favorite of Ramona's because, unlike so many books for her age, it was neither quiet and sleepy nor sweet and pretty. Ramona, pretending she was glued to her chair, enjoyed hearing the story again and listened quietly with the rest of the kindergarten to the story, to Mike Mulligan's old-fashioned steam shovel, which proved its worth by digging the basement for the new town hall of Poppersville in a single day, beginning at dawn and ending as the sun went down. As Ramona listened, a question came into her mind, a question that had often puzzled her about the books that were read to her. Somehow, books always left out one of the most important things anyone would want to know. Now that Ramona was in school, and school was a place for learning, and perhaps Miss Binney could answer the question. Ramona waited quietly until her teacher had finished the story, and then she raised her hand. The way Miss Binney had told the class they should raise their hands when they wanted to speak in school. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop here. If you are still with me, great job, boys and girls. This is the first time we read a chapter book, so kudos to you for being a good listener. So we'll see the question she has for her teacher when we read again another day. Okay, did you enjoy the book? I hope you did. So you could see Ramona is entering kindergarten. It was her first day of kindergarten. She's waiting for her present that she thinks she's going to get. And we'll see what happens next when we finish chapter 1. So chapter 1 is actually a very long chapter. Look, all these pages left. So I am going to break apart chapter 1 into 2 sessions. So next time I read it to you guys, I'll read part 2 of chapter 1 and we will see what happens with Ramona.